sprawling heart of Lagos, there once lived a black, handsome, tall man named Banjo. He was the only son among his five sisters, a Yoruba son whose name rolled off tongues with both admiration and envy. Every girl wanted him. He was opportune to travel abroad with the help of his wife. He traveled and got a job where he worked tirelessly and was opportune to meet someone that helped him fuel the idea of starting his own transportation business, which made him leave abroad to move back to Africa and much opportunities to start the business. He started the business. At first, things were rough, but he found favor and got the right information, and it helped his transportation business become big and booming, that girls wanted him and wished to be his woman at every cost, because he was rich and was the only one doing such prosperous business in that country. With no thriving competitor, he was larger than life. His houses sprawled across the city like palaces. He took over the country by investing in other businesses like hotel club and real estate amongst other businesses. Parties lit the night sky with music and champagne. His name commanded respect, fear, and worship. People called him the man who made the impossible possible. But beneath the glitter, Banjo was not what he seemed. Banjo was arrogant as he became rich, talked to people rudely, and refused to take corrections from anyone. He was a pretender who acted kind. He didn't want anyone to be better than him in his family. The family believed he loved them. Despite everything he did to them, they still thought that he was a giver and had their best interest. They kept on following him and calling him. He loved the fact that they would ask him for help. He would talk to them in a despicable manner and would reluctantly help them, but deep down he liked it and enjoyed the fact that without him, the family won't be able to stand. Banjo hated helping his family, but when it comes to throwing parties, he was available and ready. He would send money to the family to throw parties on his behalf. For his mother's remembrance, father's remembrance, burial, parties, birthday or wedding parties of other people. He loved musicians to call him on stage and hail him. Also loves everyone hailing him. He gave people money for the praises he would get from them.
Banjo built a name around abundance. If there was a wedding, he arrived with envelopes fat enough to silence the crowd. If there was a funeral, he appeared with cows, drinks, and musicians. If there was a political rally, he sprayed money until even chiefs bent their knees in gratitude. He fed off of worship. His chest would rise when he heard men whisper, "That man is in a class of his own." His heart would swell when women sighed, "Banjo is generous, Banjo is powerful." Yet the same hands that stretched out to outsiders were tight fists when it came to his own kin. His extended family begged, pleaded, and prayed before Banjo would lift a finger to do what he had boasted to do. He preferred to give to strangers who would sing his name rather than blood relatives who might claim rights over his wealth. He also built hospitals and schools as well, so to gain praises from and admiration from the community. Banjo's heart was a restless drumbeat for women. Though he had a wife, a quiet woman who bore him two children, he was never faithful. In Africa, his nights were playgrounds for new lovers. He collected mistresses the way some collected antiques. By the time he reached his peak, he had fathered children with 4 different women, each baby mama, holding on to him for the sake of his wealth and their gains. But Banjo never saw the destruction. He believed himself untouchable. What people did not know, at least not openly, was that Banjo's wealth had roots deeper than business. Behind his smiling face and open hand was a darkness he kept well hidden. Banjo had made a pact. Some whispered of strange rituals, of lives shortened so his might lengthen, of destinies buried so his empire could shine. The evidence was in his lifestyle: lavish parties, endless festivals, night gatherings that made no sense. He was always hosting, always throwing money into the air. Those who knew about such things muttered, "A man who spends like this is feeding something." But no one dared to say more. Banjo carried himself like a god among mortals. Suggestions were insults to him. Opinions from others were like noise in his ears. He alone knew what was best. He alone was destined to lead. And because his money roared louder than wisdom, people obeyed him. Chiefs, politicians, and pastors all bent their heads when he entered the room. Yet among his kin was one relative, a woman named Abike, who never bowed to him. She watched him quietly, seeing past the gold-plated lies. She told others, "This man is not what you think he is." One day truth will speak, but no one believed her. To them she was bitter, jealous, insignificant. They would say how much they love him, how they want to be like him, and even change their surnames to his and want live his kind of lifestyle. They praised him more and more. Then one night Abik had a dream. In the dream it was revealed if one is telling him their plans it would never work out. And at his parties, when they eat the food given to them, their glories and destinies drains. Abike called a family meeting. At first they laughed at her. They called her all sorts of names, called her a witch, and said she was jealous of him, but she stood firm. She told them everything she saw, every detail of the dream, every suspicion she had carried for years. As years passed, slowly unease spread among them. They began to connect dots, strange disappearances. Every money they took from him wasn't anything tangible in their lives. People who worked with him never prospered, and whispers began to grow. Word leaked. Soon the same people who once worshipped Banjo began to murmur. They questioned his wealth, his endless parties, his disdain for blood relatives. The crowds at his gatherings began to thin. Invitations that once came daily stopped arriving. Politicians who once smiled at him avoided his gaze. The music of his parties grew quieter, until one night only a handful of people danced. His wealth, which once seemed endless, began to dry like a river in drought. Baby mamas who once clung to him for comfort packed their bags and left. One by one, they abandoned him, taking his children with them. His wife abroad, weary of his neglect, shut her doors. Even his children turned their backs, tired of his absence and betrayal. Banjo lost everything. His business partners withdrew. Transport business slowed down completely. Banks came knocking. His empire became like a sandcastle under the tide. And in his loneliness, he realized the truth. The worship of men was fickle. The praise he craved was dust in the wind. The women who warmed his bed loved only his pockets. The wealth he sacrificed so much to maintain, and the family he thought he built could not save him. It was too late to ask his extended family members for forgiveness, because as the Yoruba says, Eya no kintarale elopo. Banjo had lived a life of abundance. Once praised, he became a cautionary tale. Once worshipped, he became a warning. And the people said, this is what happens to a man who builds an empire on pride, lust, and deceit. This is what becomes of one who uses others and wants all for himself alone.